So if you're still on the fence about if Grecia and Costa Rica is right for you, stay to the end. I got something special. The views here in Grecia are amazing. If you love the mountain scene, you love the greenery, and just even as you are going outside of the central part of Grecia, there are tons of things, especially if you're a walker, to see. While I'm on my walks, I get to see valleys, I get to see mountains. I found special places with my friend, and he actually showed them to me, that it says, hey, look, you can see all the way to San Jose. There's other places where you can see to different cities throughout Grecia that is just completely mapped. If you love mountainous views and you love the quiet, being in mountains, and yes, I'm talking about mountains where it's paved and, you're walking up streets, not, you're hiking up a mountain and you're off cliffs. The thing that I love about Grecia outside of the views is that it has a lot to offer. And no, I'm not talking about Grecia Central or Sarchi where there's wooden furniture. I'm talking about just in general. Meaning if you're a walker, if you'll notice, or maybe you won't notice, but if you go with somebody, it does help a lot, that there is fruit on the tree, there are herbs, there are things you can literally just pick up off the ground that are actually good for your health. And so it is vibrant with different fruits and flowers that honestly you don't see in many parts of the United States because we have our winters. But here there's, rainy season and dry season, you get a ton of greenery, and whether it comes in the form of beauty and unique flowers or fruits and vegetables that are good to your body, and herbs as well, that are actually very good if you know what you're looking for. And so I love this about Grecia in particular. And yeah, this does happen in other parts of Costa Rica, but really, since Grecia is the place that I'm talking about, it actually happens a lot in Grecia. The next one on the list is if you like the Costa Rica culture. Yes, that may take a few visits, but what I'm really trying to say in this loaded statement is Costa Rica is not the United States and Central America. Many people come and they'll say, oh, they have certain expectations and this is the way it's going to be. And particularly to those who want to live here, they'll come here and they'll either try to reinvent the United States or they'll kind of stay in vacation mode too long. And honestly, they'll end up going back. And my goal is, if I can help it as much as I can, to stop people from doing that. Stop coming over here, shipping your stuff and buying houses and doing all that stuff just to try to recreate the United States. If you're in Costa Rica, or Grecia, Costa Rica for that matter, it's time to adapt. So I try to teach the CTI method. That is to close out, transition, and to integrate. Learning how to get a community, learning how to transition, and actually follow, a process that will actually help you to be able to connect more and to be able to know that there are adjustments that you will have to make. And with that said, Costa Rica is not for everyone. Because if you're not willing to change and you think you're going to just live the same life and you're on a limited budget, yeah, it will actually not work for you. The other thing that I love about Grecia is adjustable temperatures. No, you can't go to the sky and just turn the dial. But honestly, if you do not like the temperature, let's say in Central, then you just go to another level. You go up to the mountains a little bit higher and it's cooler. And so most people out here don't really have an air conditioner because there's no need. Unlike places like Guanacaste where it's pretty flat, and so the temperature is the temperature, you need the air conditioner. In Grecia, if you don't like the temperature, you think it's too hot, too cold, then you can actually just move up and down the mountain. And no, there's never snow here, so that's always a plus. So there's, there is a low, but yes, if you want to move cooler, move higher. And if you want a little bit more heat like I do, honestly, it feels like a hug to me most of the time. And so, yeah, I like to live more central. The other benefit about living in Grecia, Costa Rica is it's centralized to the most part. And so that means that it's 45 minutes, depending on traffic, to the airport, could be less, or the San Jose airport. And it's about an hour away from San Jose itself, which honestly, San Jose gets a bad rap, but if you are taking a bus to go to any part of, the beaches or, Guanacaste, Limon, Punta Arenas, normally you're going to have to go through San Jose. So having a direct shot to San Jose is honestly in your benefit because now you have access to the major hub of everything, and that's, gets you where you want to go. Also, on top of that, there are parts, especially different cities or boroughs, really known here in San Jose, that are really fun to go to, and they're safe and they're nice. And again, you have to do your research to figure out which places there are, but it gives you access to that, and it's only an hour away. It is close to things like Escazú, which is the mall. There's another mall that's closer in Alajuela, that's probably about 30 minutes away. And yes, Grecia does have its own mall, but really it's more of a plaza than a mall. So if you want something a little bit bigger, you're gonna go to those different places that are about a half an hour to 45 minutes away. And then once you're in San Jose, you have your options of various different malls. But the reason why that is that I'll really say that's centralized, because if you're a beach person and you realize, living on the beach can be very hot, and I like to go, but I don't want to live. Honestly, that's where I fell in. I like the beach, but I don't love the beach, and most people don't know the difference. But I like the beach means I can visit, which means that I can live somewhere else, such as Grecia, and drive an hour and a half or take an hour and a half bus to various different beaches, or 4 hours to Limon. And so it gives you another flexibility. Also, we're only like 2 hours away, give or take 2.5 hours away from La Fortuna, where they have hot springs. So it's not just your typical, beach areas that you see maybe in various parts of the world, but to actually go to a hot spring, which is not just a single place. There's tons of different hotels that have hot springs. There's natural hot springs. There's all kind of events and things like that. So when you're living in Grecia or living in a place like Grecia and you want to get away for the weekend, it's not that far. You can make it a day trip if you want to. You still have access to all these different things. And that's why I love the fact that Grecia is centralized, because it gives you, everything you want, and you don't even have to have a car. The other benefit I believe Grecia has is the cost of living. And in particular, we're going to just talk about the cost of rent. So this fluctuates just like it does in the United States, from one event to another event, or people moving and whatever. That happens as well. But when you're doing your comparison, and for Grecia, for example, to let's say Guanacaste or San Jose, generally you're going to fall a lot cheaper just on average. The basic things that you need, and the rent that you need, that you want to pay, is a lot lower in Grecia. And honestly, this was a big motivating factor for me, because one of my whys to move to Costa Rica was for peace. So I ruled out the beach, and I didn't want to live in the fast pace of San Jose. Not that I didn't like either one of the places, or either none. There's a lot of those, but either one of those examples. It's just that I just wanted a place to, lay my head that I felt safe, and Grecia was that. So why would I be house heavy? Why would I, put myself in more expensive places and then subtract from the budget that I had given myself to be able to travel and to visit and explore? No, I wanted to find a place that was good and centralized, that had a good cost of rent and can give me what I needed. And yes, the rent in Grecia does range. So it's like asking, how much does it cost to move to the United States or New York or Ohio? Well, it depends on what you're trying to get, depends what you're asking for. It depends on if you're like, I need a pool, you never had a pool before. Those things are obviously going to cost you more. I'm going to live in a gated community. Those things can potentially cost you more. But in the beginning, a lot of that's okay. What I want you to do, and I'll talk about later, home base, someplace that you feel comfortable with, that gets what you want. But as you adjust and as you transition, which we'll talk about that again, the transitioning later, is that your idea, you want something that matches your why and your budget. So that means that, you don't need all of that, especially if you're not here to build a house, unless you are, which is not what I'm going to help you with. But you're here to find, get attached with it, but get integrated and figure out how, you can find your place here in Costa Rica. Those things require you a lot of times not to be house heavy, so that you can get around and see different places in Costa Rica. So let's talk community. So community is another thing that I love about Grecia. Now, for me, I've been blessed a lot because the community that surround me and my neighbors, who are all Ticos, by the way, that they were able to help me, and I've been able to get integrated with churches and get to see people and even visit at different parts of Costa Rica because of my relationships to the people that I have here, the community that I have here. And so where Gracia, I think, is king over a lot of different places is, especially compared to the United States, is that people are normally willing to sit down and talk to you. So that they seem like they have patience. Now, to be quite honest, everywhere I have went, people have been patient. Maybe it's just people that I find. I hear people with different stories, but again, I can't speak for their stories. I don't know what they were presenting, and to what they got back. But for me, over the past 4 years has been a very pleasant time living in Costa Rica. And so the people in Gracia, honestly, it was the person in particular who actually got me to, stay in Gracia. I went around looking for the places that I wanted to live, Central Valley, and of course you hit places like Escazú where things are, moving pretty fast, but, it has malls. It's like, oh, I know I didn't want that. Hit different parts of San Jose, oh, too busy. And so, again, this was a quick scan. And when I landed on Gracia, some gentleman slowed down and just long enough to have a 45-minute conversation with him, his family, or his mom, his grandma on his grandma's birthday to help us out, to help a stranger out, and did not get anything in return. So I was able to settle down here because honestly, that moment helped me to say, hey, and it wasn't even the only moment. And not down in any other part, but I am celebrating Gracia. And I think it is very good and is a good place to have and to find a community, especially when you're looking to integrate with Ticos. And that does mean you may have to improve your Spanish. Let me not, just say that, hey, it just happened day one. No, it happened over time in the improving of Spanish. And yes, some of my Tico friends can't speak English. Some of them refuse to speak English with me. I'm not going to say any names. The cost of utilities. Now, this is a big one, especially, and I'm not trying to, point the finger at Guanacaste. It just happens to be a great example a lot of times. Guanacaste gets hot. Almost no matter where you are in Guanacaste, you're hot. And so we're talking about temperatures over 100 degrees, sometimes humid and things like that. And so if you love it, it's perfect for you. A lot of times people in Guanacaste don't even have air conditioning because they're so accustomed. But if you're not accustomed to that type of life, then you're going to be having higher electricity bills because you're going to keep your air conditioner running. The same thing when I was, and again, I can't speak for La Fortuna, but when I visit, it was at the time of the year, it was hot and humid. And I felt like I had to keep my air conditioner on. But I did, at least over the 5 days that I was there, start to even at that point get accustomed. So maybe in the future I wouldn't have needed it. But day one, yes, it was something I needed. But in Gracia, I don't feel like I need that. And remember how I said you can adjust your temperature? Yeah, if you feel like it's too hot, then you want to move higher in the mountains where it's a lot cooler. And so the utilities typically are very constant, at least in my opinion. So if you want to know from a local's perspective what you can really do that can really help you when you move to Costa Rica, check out this video and I will see you on the other side.